Back in 2021, when Amazon revealed the very first image from the Rings of Power, Middle-earth fans, especially those who had read the Silmarillion, were filled with hope, but what followed shattered those expectations. For years, fans had dreamed of a grand, high-quality adaptation of the Silmarillion, and this project felt like the closest we'd ever get. Amazon's budget was massive, the biggest series on Prime Video and the most expensive in TV history, but you can't buy everything with money. Your work should have a soul and a distinct voice, otherwise it's just noise. Even when the show looks spectacular on screen, there are some problems that decrease the quality of the story. Today, I'll break down why Rings of Power failed to live up to its enormous promise. I won't compare it to the books and will try to focus on the show itself. So, let's begin. First, I want to start with some positives about Rings of Power. It seems that Amazon spent so much money on visual effects. Many CGI scenes were quite high quality and brilliant. From magical effects to explosions and beasts, the visuals are impressively detailed. This makes the world feel more realistic to the viewer. Especially places like Lindon, Khazad-dûm, Numenor, and Eregion look mesmerizing to watch. The visual effects team did a great job on these environments because they don't look like green screen sets at first glance. The visual designs in Lindon truly capture the essence of Lothlorien. It's clearly a visual choice. Lindon is styled to echo Lothlorien with a golden palette, soft haze, and that ethereal elven calm. The sets of other locations also had pretty distinct and detailed qualities that make them believable places. Magical effects were also pretty nice to watch, especially in the scenes of Gandalf versus Mystics and the Dark Wizard. However, the creature effects drew criticism as some CGI designs didn't feel as realistic. Additionally, the show's soundtracks were decent enough to enrich many sequences in my opinion. I mean, they were not great, but they didn't disturb me either. I wish Howard Shore could have composed all tracks of the series. Lastly, some scenes had awesome cinematography in both seasons. For example, the smoke-filled shots after Mount Doom's eruption, the sequence where Sauron enters Galadriel's mind, the end moments in the forests around Pelargir, and parts of the battle at Eregion. To sum up, the show delivered technically, but fell short in other key aspects. Now, I'll dive into the central question: what went wrong? First, I'm going to talk about the time and space inconsistencies. As you know, Middle-earth has a massive map. Getting from one place to another can take days. But right in episode 1, what do we see? Galadriel is about to reach Valinor and suddenly jumps into the open ocean. No matter how strong an elf she is, there's no way she could swim from there to Middle-earth's shores. If she hadn't found Halbrand, she could have drowned. Beyond that, the elves act like they don't even have horses walking from Eregion to Khazad-dûm. In episode 8, Halbrand and Galadriel make it from the Southlands to Eregion in 6 days without any rest, while the Númenóreans are shown reaching the Southlands in just 2. And the show never makes it clear whether events in different locations are happening at the same time. Another big problem: the elves don't actually feel like elves basically, the humanization of elves. In the Lord of the Rings films, elves had a charming aura, a certain grace. Here, even the high elves come off ordinary and flat. People clock Galadriel as an elf just by staring at her ear. That's a joke. Elves are presented as weak until they wear the rings. And despite her age, Galadriel rarely speaks with real wisdom, and she doesn't project it either. Sadly, only Gil-galad actually feels like a real elf. We see the same issue with the orcs. In Middle-earth, orcs are bred for war and live for it. They are savage, ruthless, malevolent, barbaric. But the series has Adar and some orcs mourning a dead orc, Adar's lieutenant, and a few others don't even want to fight. There's even a mother orc and baby orc moment, painting them as innocent and almost peace-loving beings. That might work in another fantasy world. In Middle-earth, though, orcs are a race Morgoth twisted over long exposure to torture, fire, and darkness. Similar to this issue, let's discuss the collapse of good versus evil now. On this topic, Adar and Galadriel's first conversation goes off the rails. Adar says orcs have hearts and names and a right to live. His attachment to them is obvious. By saying that orcs are a mistake and must be exterminated, Galadriel gradually comes across as if she were a genocidal fascist.
It would seem I'm not the only elf alive that's being transformed by darkness. Perhaps your search for Morgoth's successor should have ended in your own mirror.
Here, Adar is framed as completely right, while the orcs are portrayed as innocent and almost peace-loving. This series breaks Middle-earth's clear good-evil divide and turns the story from a moral text into something cynical and postmodern, a major misstep. Middle-earth isn't Game of Thrones. This world is black and white. Tolkien was a devout Christian writer, so he focused on the moral struggle between good and evil. Right up to the end of Season 2, this adaptation keeps breaking the line between good and evil and drenching everything in grey, and it doesn't fit Middle-earth at all. Beyond these, one of the series' biggest problems is having lots of plot holes. These plot holes may look like minor detail mistakes at first, but once you stack them together, they seriously hurt the series' quality and consistency. For example, Numenor cramming 500 soldiers and their horses onto 3 not-so-big ships, and Galadriel showing off her elf sight to Isildur during the voyage. Numenorians have 2 days to reach the Southlands, yet as shown, they make it there to help in just 1 day. In the same episode, after Galadriel and Halbrand capture Adar, they don't even think to check the broken sword hilt they seized. They hand it to Arondir without even asking what it is. In the next episode, Halbrand is lying there severely wounded, and 2 minutes later he is on horseback riding off. In the Season 1 finale, Galadriel and Elrond don't tell Celebrimbor that Halbrand is Sauron. Let's say Galadriel hesitates, she's afraid, so she can't bring herself to reveal that truth. But even though Elrond senses something, he leaves Eregion without questioning anything. And in the Harfoot and the Stranger sequence, the stranger who couldn't speak the whole season suddenly starts saying wise, pithy one-liners. We run into the same kind of silly plot holes in Season 2 as well. For instance, during Miriel's coronation rite, as an argument breaks out, an eagle supposedly sent by the Valar shows up. Pharazôn walks up to the eagle, and the crowd suddenly erupts in cheers and just makes Pharazôn king. So just because he stood before an eagle and drew his sword, he is the chosen one now? That ceremony was Miriel's coronation, not Pharazôn's. We see a similar thing a few episodes later in the sea monster scene. When the summoned sea monster spares Miriel, the crowd starts calling her queen, but then nothing comes of it. So what was the point of that scene? In the same episode, Adar, who has Galadriel captive, easily manipulates this centuries-old, battle-tested commander and gets what he wants. Even in Season 2, Galadriel still doesn't look or feel like a high elf, and honestly, that's just absurd. In the next episode, Adar mortally wounded Arondir. I'm sure many of us thought he died in that fight. But in the season finale, he's back with no wounds and not even a dent in his armor. Worse, the dwarves are talking taxes and a throne struggle like they forgot the Balrog under the mountain. In short, these plot holes and logic gaps might not break the series' cohesion one by one, but together they seriously weaken this production's quality and believability. Lastly, I'm going to talk about a smaller issue: how the outward appearances of elves and dwarves don't fit the Middle-earth atmosphere. I am not here to debate casting diversity, since having black elves or dwarves never bothered me. What really bothers me is that half the male elves have short hair. Finrod's haircut makes him look less like one of the oldest elves in Valinor and more like a modern guy living in New York. Fine, maybe they wanted a different style because Finrod looks young, but what about Elrond, Celebrimbor and Arondir? In Season 2, Círdan, one of the firstborn, shaves his beard for no reason. Círdan is among the eldest and wisest of the elves. The actor's look with long hair and a beard fit the fictional character perfectly until the scene where he shaves it off. After watching The Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies repeatedly, it feels so odd to see short and modern haircuts on ancient elf lords' heads. In fact, the long hair of elves reinforces their wisdom, elegance and dignity as a race. There's also the question of how dwarf women are portrayed. After what Gimli says about dwarf women in the film The Lord of the Rings, I'm sure many people imagine them as women with at least a little beard and a more masculine face. This TV show does the exact opposite. Disa doesn't have a single hair on her face. She is practically runway ready with a polished face and an ornate hairstyle. In Season 2, after fan pushback, the producers had to add a few stray hairs to Disa's cheeks. These creative choices undercut the elves' feminine, wise aura and the dwarves' masculine, hard-edged vibe. Overall, Amazon's The Lord of the Rings show is a genuinely successful production on a technical level. It's a very high-budget TV series with eye-catching visuals, and it's enjoyable to watch on a 4K screen. However, because of the mistakes I've discussed and the ones I couldn't even get to, the shortcomings, the wrong creative choices, the lack of fidelity to the source material, and the absence of a clear vision, the series' quality keeps declining. I mean, it actually has the potential for a great story to be crafted, but the writers decided to write an entirely original story of their own, and unfortunately the result isn't solid or well-grounded. Even without comparing it to the books, it has internal contradictions and plenty of loose ends. I hope we see a higher quality production in Season 3. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts about Rings of Power in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.